I'm sitting on unemployment. You saw I was working as a hostess at Kalari on minimum wage. They're looking at a lawsuit. Why wasn't I, given that I applied for the job as manager? Oh, my Lord. Check the open table reviews, the catastrophe that's going on in there. I would have cleaned it up right away. But I also would have stopped all of this. Oh, the managers are just interested in finding some young girls. Believe me, this town was like that in the 20s. I paid my way through college. I worked at Paper Moon. Apparently those Lebanese guys are still there. I'm like, oh, I can imagine how many labor law violations they've got over the years. Those two. What scumbags. Believe me, most of the restaurant owners in this town. I saw it back in the 80s. It's just gotten worse. The managers are as bad as the owners nowadays. At least the managers in the 80s had some kind of logic. I mean, these people are crazy. I mean, really, really, like Nancy Reagan crazy, my mom crazy, like all of the Foxcroft mothers crazy. So then I did, I think, so I got some more, I got a few more temp jobs through the IMF. And I think I actually got lucky there, because since I had been terminated from the IMF Family Association, it wasn't like on the radar with the IMF, because if you're terminated, you're not going to be let back in. That's what I later learned when I was contractual. Yeah, it was a wrongful termination, but it doesn't matter, and it was all covered up. So then, and it was actually another temp agency that and I mean, I'm fluent in French and Spanish. My writing in Spanish is a hell of a lot, especially after all of the complaints that I filed to Spain. Not perfect Spanish, but it's, understandable. Is better, much better than my French. French is quite difficult to the grammar, all of it, even though I'm fluent. So that was always a plus. So I did some temp jobs there. Then I worked for a while for a little boutique to lawyers. They were from Iran. I was like, yeah, once again, okay, now I'm a little understanding more the problems with lawyers. At the same time, I'm working my 9 to 5 to keep a roof over my head, but all of the rest of the time, I'm researching and seeing what's going on, and I'm going to the demonstrations when they come to town on the weekends, and I'm all involved, and I'm constantly, I mean, they took my kids, they're going to mess with my kids. I told them, I told everybody, do not mess with me, do not mess with my children, and don't mess with my father, because my husband threw my father into the whole thing. Because I was like, my children and my father, anybody who touches them, you wake up the she-devil. You don't do it. And I can promise you, I am not some brain dead Stepford wife. I am as smart as my dad, and have the integrity of my dad, and he's the only person in this world whose opinion that my children matter to me, because he is the most honest, or was the most honest, honorable man I think I've ever met, and intelligent. And as I said at his memorial ceremony, his brilliance came from his ability to always be questioning, and his humility. That's what I say when he said, you're just a simple lawyer. You're just a simple lawyer, just like my dad was a simple doctor. So then I worked for those lawyers a little while. They closed up shop. And then, so I once again faced, I mean, I've sent my resume out and out and out, and I'm qualified for so many different jobs. You know, HR, event planning, restaurant managing, even the kitchen. I mean, when everybody walked out one day from Kalari, the kitchen staff, all of them walked out. And I said, well, you know what? They have good reason. And I hope they find a lawyer to go after these guys. Well, I ended up in the kitchen because I was the best option. I mean, I'm a damn good cook, and I can cook for 100 people like that. But I mean, I hadn't even been in this kitchen. I'm like, where's all this stuff? Yeah, I know the menu, but you know, I never even been back there. And all of a sudden, I gotta, you know, we gotta up the whole, you know, restaurant. And I forget who they got in as the cook. And you can see the reviews out there. Every place, the labor rights violations in this town are terrible. And I cannot find any NGOs. I cannot find any lawyers, even though I have everything documented, the evidence, the cases, the witnesses, you talk about mass tort. I see you're on your profile, you're involved in mass tort. Oh Lord, there's a pack doll out there. I mean, if the lawyers in this town would get on the ball, I know they're making a lot of money this way, but it's gonna end up badly for them. There's a lot of money to be made in cleaning this place up. Not just with the labor, the housing. As I said, I'm on my, I got to change for the 9th time. I'll get into that later. Why? So then I worked, I got some other jobs, I guess temp. That's why I guess they started, at that time I would have started working in the Institute for Capacity Development. And there I stayed 4 years. I had a little stint, which was really interesting, in the financial integrity group under legal. And of course, it was in summertime, so there was all of those, you know, projects that nobody wants to do. Well, who's the perfect person but the temp? I was like, oh my God, this is a gold mine. And they had me do all of the archives. We all organized all of the archives. I had done this when I was 18 for Patsy, because I had gone up to the attic. Oh yeah, it had, well, a decade of that. The senators, all of the, and this is back in the day of paper. And Patsy always, she didn't trust microfiche. Oh, no. I had to go up and get all of that stuff and pull it for her and give it to her. I mean, I learned everything from Patsy. She was, that's one of the reasons I stayed there for 5 years. I mean, you talk about how to run an efficient, you know, a tight ship. That was Patsy. And that's what this town needs. And so I started working there, and I was what they call a floater secretary, which was fine for me. And you know, you keep a roof over my head, and I mean, this was a gold mine for me, because it gave me access to all of the, you know, they have all of these platforms with all of the research, the working papers, and which cost a lot of money. But with an IMF account, even when I was the temp, even with that, I could download them for free. And these people had me sitting around doing nothing for 80% of my time. So I'm like, fine. I mean, I would have felt really guilty, and I thought it was horrible, all of these people sitting around watching Netflix movies and playing, you know, solitaire on their computers, just sitting around. And because it's an administrative nightmare in the place. And, you know, I would have felt guilty, except I was researching all of the issues that they should be researching. I mean, I'll give the timeline of my research a little bit. Sorry, this is a long story. Trying to keep it the timeline. So I'm there, and I worked everywhere. I worked in Western him, because as I say, I speak Spanish, and then African, I speak French. The two women in African were actually the only, secretaries, administrative assistants that had a brain and any kind of integrity. The rest of them, I mean, some of them, I'm like, I wouldn't even hire that woman as my maid. I have intelligence to even learn how to do that. And so I'm a floater, and that's fine. And I'm just keeping my head down because I know the game. I know oh my God, you talk about the social climbing and the bureaucratic mess. This is what needs to be gotten rid of. And I can promise you, if you get rid of the managerialism and the bureaucratic nightmare that is going on everywhere, and this I'll get into, the alpha dominance feminism. It's these and believe me, it's the on the conservatives, the Nancy Reagan control freak. Oh gosh, can't breathe. My mom makes Nancy Reagan look like an angel. When I'm talking to these guys out there, I said, oh yeah, they get on your neck and physically stop you from breathing. Oh gosh, these control freak social climbing psychopaths do it, figuratively and emotionally. That's why you get so many of these young girls with anorexia. You have so many of these kids doped up. I've been watching this my entire life. Well, I went to Foxcroft. I said, thank you, Lord. Everybody's family is as crazy as my mom. They're all of the same mold. It doesn't matter if they're on the right or the left. That's why you have such extremism. Believe me, the deep state, the real deep state, and I get into this into my research in anthropology, sociology, psychology, are the women in the ruling elite. And believe me, I've been swimming in the shark-infested waters my entire life. And I could have become a shark. And I would have been a damn good one. Believe me. And that's why I left in the 80s. I said, this is going to destroy me, just like it has destroyed everybody I've ever seen. It's not I have to wait until the books come out, and they've been out a while, so I can buy them second hand, because they're too expensive full price. But I want to read Mary Trump's book. I totally agree with her. I mean, I come from the same type of family. They just didn't have all of those zeros in their net worth. Or in their net debt. Rather, mejor dicho. So I spent 4 years there, and my research is progressing. And I'll get into that with the timeline. My research is progressing, and by this time, I and a few other activists in the United States, Cindy Dumas, she is really the other one who is going after UN women. That they have to look at all of the problems within the family courts, because basically what's happening is 70% of sexually and physically abused children are being handed over to the abuser. And then 90%, in 90% of the cases, if fathers ask for custody of the children, they're awarded custody. And even one of the domestic violence experts and people says, any contested divorce, we should consider a domestic abuse case. Because I think the statistic is 85% of the cases, the people come to their own agreement, which is how it should be. But those other cases is where you see, and this is where we get into the corruption of the court and the breakdown in the rule of law caused by the war on drugs, just like it cause prohibition, believe me, it's had a, you know, a spillover into the family courts. It's not just the penal system. I've looked at that system less. I mean, I'm not an expert in that system, but the parallels are there. And I saw it in the landlord tenant court when I went through that in 2016. So the parallels and what's going on in the corporate world, it's the same. Whoever has the deepest pockets wins. So then there was this Adrian Thapa, who I'd mentioned earlier when I was at the IMF Family Association. Her claim to fame is typing 75 words a minute in her day. So she finagles her way into becoming office manager of the Institute for Capacity Development. Now, the place is already poorly managed, administrative part, under Kate Phillips, who's getting a promotion and getting into the HR. Oh, this is another one who I was like, oh God. This is why also I was like, no, you guys, I don't get into this brown nosing stuff to try and grapple up the ladder of success in the IMF. And that's not why I'm here. I'm here because you pay a roof over my head, and I got all access to all sorts of stuff, and I got a lot of free time. And I'm not milking the taxpayers for it. I mean, I am serving the people, so I don't feel guilty. So I'm good. I'm good here in my little cubicle, whatever you guys want me to do. If you only want me to stand at a Xerox machine waiting for stuff to come out, that's fine. I'm not going to complain. But unfortunately, you know, while I had never turned on really a computer, or barely, before 2005, I am very, you know, I have a very mathematical mind and always very savvy for my age. I tell these kids, we had computers, and I used to be the techie expert because I would come with the little portable TV we had in the 70s and have the aluminum foil and be the one who had to get the reception on the TV. That was the beginning of my engineering, you know, training. But I do, you know, I figured it out. I mean, it takes some time, but all of these different stuff over the years, this does get into my global expats. I'm interested in all of the user side of what's been going on for the past 15 years, because I'm not letting that die, even though my husband wants it to. And everything that I've lived through is just proof that what I'm trying to build here, there's a necessity for. So then Adrian comes in and everybody's coming to me. Like this always happens to me, always. Oh God, oh God, oh God, this is going to be a worse catastrophe than ever, because everybody's complaining to me about all the problems they've been having already. And I'm like, I know, I get it. Believe me, when I can find the lawyers to start submitting, we'll get all of this into the court. I'm watching. I mean, without lawyers, I can't do anything. So then Adrian gets pissed off. First, she's threatened by me because she knows that everyone knows that if I had been given the job, I would have had that place cleaned up like that. And that's why everybody's coming to me. And so she's terribly jealous. And also I was writing and writing and writing. And when they took my children, I put on like 30 pounds. I mean, I've always been very, very thin. I've been going up and down in the past 12 years, well, since they took my children. And I lost like quite a bit of weight, and I was walking and walking, and sir, you do not understand. You do not understand how that just makes viperous women stew with jealousy. one of the women in the office, because I mean, I knew my goose was cooked, and she even told me, she said, wear mini skirts and show your skinny legs. That'll really make her jealous. Get a life. Oh, I did wear the mini skirt, and I put on fishnet stockings. Ask your wife, she's gonna understand what I'm talking about. I knew she was gonna fire me. At least I was gonna say, yeah, well, we all know why you're getting rid of me. You're not fooling anybody. I even made a whole bunch of cookies for everybody to say, see, I even cook better. I mean, these are catty little things that women do. We don't go and punch people. That's what we do. So why she got mad at me, though, I said, people, please don't do this. Please, please, please don't do this. So there was some construction work. You know, they were doing renovations at the IMF. So our office, Institute for Capacity Development, is across the street at 1919 Penn. So this is one of these office buildings. And downstairs, they were doing construction work on the, you know, other side. Is that I Street or H? I forget. A little street with lots of the Peruana. There's a Peruana restaurant back there. And they were doing construction, so I couldn't get in. So there's a coffee shop, because I would come from Farragut West. There's a coffee shop there. So I went through the coffee shop, because there's an entrance, and then into the building, because I would usually get in around 7 o'clock in the morning, 7:30 in the morning. I mean, everybody was like, yeah, you're the first to get in and the last to leave. And I'm like, yeah, and I go home and I keep on working, and I work all week long, because I didn't come here to party, and I didn't come here to schmooze and cruise and make lots of friends. I left that behind me in the 80s. And so the manager got upset because I was coming through, and I always have my, you know, my music, and, you know, I came through and I'm like, good morning, and I walked through, and the second or third day, he finally comes and he stands in front of me and won't let me into the office building. I take off my headset, because I think even the first day I said, oh gosh, you guys are going to have a lot of people coming in through here, but this is good for you guys' business. I'm thinking you guys should take advantage of the opportunity, put out some little snacks, get people to stop. Because if they get a little snack, they might, you know, want something, or get a coffee. But that's what you do, is get them to stop for a minute, and then, you know, take advantage of the situation. Well, they were furious that people are coming through the restaurant or coffee shop. And he said, you can't come through here. And I said, excuse me? He said, you can't come here. And I'm like, I can't believe this. So, well, fight. But I go out, and I go through, and I go through the main entrance, 1919, and I go up to the office, and I call the office management. I identify myself, who I work for, because of course, why am I coming into this building at this time in the morning? And I said, I'm sorry, this is a public establishment. And that this gets into, back in the 80s, when I was working in restaurants, you could not prohibit homeless people from using the bathrooms. This is public, you know, these are public establishments. I mean, even this was actually at Old Epic Grill when I worked there. Oh, that was a fun place to work in the day. Now, God, I wouldn't send anybody over there. It's called corporate. The manager even said, oh, no, they come in here, you have to let them, because we'll have a lawsuit the next day from one of these, you know, NGOs, legal clinics. We'll have a lawsuit the next day if you don't let them in, and don't let them use the bathrooms. I think everybody knows today that's not the case. And that's just one little tiny example of the degradation of the rights of people in this city since the 80s to now. I mean, I'm finding things, I just tell people, I say, this would never fly. Never. I told one young woman, I went to Capital One the other day, and she's somebody I'd seen, you know, I know from downtown. I was talking to her, and I said, you know, back in the 80s, I mean, the workplace wasn't perfect. I mean, and I worked, you know, as I say, restaurants when I was in college, and then the professional world, and things weren't perfect. But never would they have been able to get away with some of the stuff that they do these days. Never. I would have had a lawyer like that. Not these days. Too busy going to meetings and conferences and writing reports and being important and brown nosing and being brown nosed. So that's when I got into the altercation with Adrian, because she then was all angry that I had filed a complaint and said something to the management, you know, the building management, saying, I'm sorry, this manager, this is a public, you know, place, the other entrance is blocked, and I'm you know, I'm launching a complaint. From then on, I would go through 1919 pen. You know, I'm gonna fight with somebody over this and make a whole scene every day. But even the next day when I came in, and I told the receptionist when I walked in, I said, I would like you all to see and witness that I am coming in through the non-offensive entrance, but I do so under protest. And she laughed. I mean, there's too many people in this city and this world and this country, and the bullying, and this comes from the narcissism back, and they're looking for fights. I like, live and let live, chill a little bit, but don't chill over the important things, you really elite women. God, you get all flustered over stupid little stuff. And then the really important issues, the moral issues of our day, well, I know you don't understand, believe me.